The town of Millbrook woke up slow on career day, the kind of gray autumn morning where the sky couldn't decide if it wanted to rain. Buses hissed to a stop outside Millbrook Elementary. Kids spilled out in their good sweaters, the ones their parents made them wear for picture day and assemblies and anything that might end up on the school's Facebook page. Inside a small rented house 3 streets from the school, 36-year-old Marcus Webb was already covered in metal dust. He'd been up since 5, finishing a railing job for a client who needed it done before the county inspector came by at 9. His hands, scarred across the knuckles, permanently stained at the nail beds, moved fast and sure over the welder, sparks jumping like fireflies in the dim garage light. His daughter, Ivy, was 8, and she was the reason he did any of it. "Dad." Her voice cut through the hiss of the torch. He killed the flame, flipped up his mask. Hey, stand back from the sparks, baby, I told you that." I know. Ivy stood in the doorway in her school uniform, backpack already on, looking like she'd been standing there a while working up to something. "Career day is today." Marcus wiped his hands on a rag. "I know, Bug. I signed the permission slip, remember?" "Yeah, but," she hesitated. That hesitation was new. Ivy had never been a kid who hesitated before saying things. She used to just say them, loud, in the middle of dinner, in the middle of church, wherever. Since her mother left 2 years ago, not died, just left, packed a bag on a Tuesday and never came back, Ivy had gotten quieter in some places and louder in others, and Marcus was still learning the map of it. But what? Nothing. She forced a smile that didn't reach her eyes. "I gotta go. Bus is coming." He watched her walk down the driveway, backpack bouncing, and told himself it was nothing. Kids got nervous about school stuff. That was normal. He had a hospital's parking structure to finish framing by Friday and a stack of invoices he hadn't sent out because paperwork made his eyes cross, and he let the nothing become nothing, and went back to work. By 10:30, he'd forgotten career day existed. At Millbrook Elementary, the school gym had been transformed into a maze of folding tables, each one manned by a parent in their work clothes. A woman in green scrubs explained an EKG machine to a cluster of wide-eyed second graders. A man in a pilot's uniform let kids sit in a mocked-up cockpit chair. There was a lawyer with a briefcase full of evidence, a chef handing out sample cupcakes, an architect with a scale model of the new library. Ivy sat near the back on a folding chair, and the chair next to her, the one with her father's name taped to it, was empty. "Where's your dad?" asked a boy named Preston, who had spent the last 20 minutes at the front table because his mother was a news anchor and everyone wanted a turn holding her microphone. "He's coming," Ivy said. "He just runs late sometimes." "What does he even do?" Preston asked, though from his tone it was clear he already had a theory and just wanted her to confirm it. "He's a welder. And he fixes stuff, buildings and bridges and—" "So he's basically construction," said a girl named Harlow, not unkindly, but with the flat certainty of an 8-year-old repeating something she'd heard at home. "My dad says construction guys just do what the real builders tell them to." A few kids laughed. Not cruel laughter yet, the testing kind, the kind that's checking to see if it's allowed. "He's not like that," Ivy said, quieter now. "Is he coming or not?" Preston pressed. "Career day's almost over." Ivy looked at the gym doors. Nothing. She looked at the clock. It was 11:40. Career day ended at noon. "He's coming," she said again, but it came out smaller than she meant it to. Marcus's phone rang at 11:32, buried under a pile of blueprints on the passenger seat of his truck. He was 3 exits away, driving back from the hospital site with a bolt of anxiety already tightening in his chest because he'd glanced at the dashboard clock 20 minutes ago and done the math and realized, with a cold drop in his stomach, exactly what today was. He fumbled the phone up one-handed. "Hello? Mr. Webb? This is Ms. Alvarez, the front office." A calm, practiced voice, the voice people use when they don't want you to panic, which of course makes you panic. "I just wanted to check in. Career day wraps up at noon, and I noticed Ivy's table is still." "I'm coming," Marcus said, already flooring it toward the exit. "I'm 10 minutes out. I completely lost track of the morning. I'm so sorry. Tell her I'm coming." "Of course. No rush," Ms. Alvarez said, in the tone of someone who meant there was, in fact, a rush. He hung up and drove faster than he should have, weaving through the noon traffic that clogs every small town's one main street at exactly the wrong time. His shirt had a burn hole from a spark that morning. His boots were caked in drywall dust and mud from the hospital site. He hadn't had time to change, hadn't had time to think, had only room in his head for one thought, looping, "Don't let her sit there alone. Don't let her sit there alone." By 11:50, the gym had mostly cleared. Parents were packing up their tables, the scale models, the stethoscopes, the microphones, while kids drifted toward the hallway for lunch. Ivy hadn't moved from her chair. "Guess he's not coming," Preston said, not cruelly, just observing, the way kids observe things without weighing what it costs to say them out loud. "My dad said welders work crazy hours, 'cause they gotta take whatever job they can get." "That true?" Harlow asked Ivy. Ivy didn't answer. She was staring at the double doors at the end of the gym, willing them to open. They didn't open gently. They banged open, hard, and every head in the gym turned. Marcus stood there, work boots, dust-caked jeans, a burn hole singed clean through his shirt sleeve, a hard hat still tucked under one arm because he'd literally run from the truck without thinking to leave it behind. He was breathing like he'd sprinted the last 100 yards, which he had. "Ivy," he scanned the room, found her face, and something in his chest unclenched. "Sorry I'm late, bug." For half a second, nobody moved. Then Ivy was out of her chair and across the gym and into him, and he wrapped both arms around her, hard hat and all, not caring who was watching. "You came," she said into his shirt. "Course I came." He knelt down so he was eye level with her. "I got caught up at the hospital site. I'm sorry. I should have left way earlier." "It's okay," Ivy said, in the automatic way kids say it's okay when it very much was not okay 5 minutes ago. Marcus stood, and it was only then he noticed the quiet around them, a ring of kids who'd stayed behind, watching, and the flush of embarrassment crossing a few young faces who realized, all at once, that the man standing in front of them was not what they'd pictured. Preston, to his credit, was the first to speak. "You're a welder?" "Welder, framer, general fix-it guy," Marcus said, still catching his breath. "Whatever needs doing, mostly." "Do you, like, build stuff?" Harlow asked, curiosity edging out the earlier flatness in her voice. "I built the frame for the new wing at Millbrook General," Marcus said. He hadn't meant it as a mic drop. It just happened to be true, and it happened to be the thing on his mind, since he'd just come from there. "The steel skeleton, the part that holds the whole building up. That's me and 4 other guys." The kid's expressions shifted, the way expressions do when a category gets rearranged in real time. Construction guy had just become, in 8-year-old math, the reason the hospital doesn't fall down. A teacher, Mr. Doyle, walked over, and his face lit up. "Marcus? You did the railing repair on the east stairwell last spring, didn't you, the one that had been broken for 2 years?" "That was me. Half the staff was scared to use those stairs. You fixed it in an afternoon." Mr. Doyle turned to the kids. "Your dad's the reason I don't have to walk the long way to the teacher's lounge anymore." "Small thing to you, maybe. Big thing to me." Another parent, hovering near the door with her coat already on, paused. "Wait, Webb. You did the retaining wall behind the Fenton's place after the flooding 2 years back. My sister lives next door. She said you didn't charge them full price because they just lost so much already." Marcus rubbed the back of his neck, uncomfortable the way people who are used to being useful and invisible get uncomfortable when the invisible part stops working. It was a bad year for a lot of folks. Didn't feel right charging full rate. Ivy watched all of it, the small crowd gathering, the stories stacking up, one after another, each one a little brick in a wall she hadn't known was being built around her all along, without her seeing it. She hadn't known about the stairwell. She hadn't known about the Fentons. She'd just known that her dad came home tired, smelling like metal and sawdust, and sometimes missed things, bake sales, one soccer game, almost this, because work ran long. She hadn't known that work ran long meant fixing things for people who needed them fixed. Preston, still a little red in the face, looked at Ivy. "Sorry. About earlier." "It's fine," Ivy said, and this time she meant it. At lunch, Marcus sat with her at the end of a long cafeteria table, still in his work clothes, hard hat resting on the bench beside him like an uninvited guest. Ivy picked at a tray of pizza and green beans, glancing at him every so often like she was checking he was still real. "Dad?" "Yeah, bug. When they were saying that stuff, before you came, I felt kind of bad. Like I wanted to disappear." Marcus set down his fork. "And after?" Ivy thought about it, chewing slowly, the way she did when she was working up to something true. "After, I felt like, I don't know. Proud, I guess. Like actually proud, not just okay proud." Something in Marcus's throat went tight, the specific kind of tight that only shows up when your kid says something you didn't know you needed to hear. "You don't ever have to be embarrassed by what I do," he said. "Some days it's just fixing a leaky pipe. Some days it's a hospital. Either way, it's honest work, and it's why we've got a roof and you've got shoes that fit." "I know." Ivy smiled, the real one this time, not the forced one from the doorway that morning. "I wasn't embarrassed. I was just scared you weren't coming." "I'm always coming," Marcus said. "Might be late. Might show up looking like I lost a fight with a welding torch. But I'm always coming." Ivy laughed, really laughed, and for the first time since her mother left, Marcus thought, watching her, that the quiet parts of her were starting to fill back in. The story didn't go viral because of a drone or a stunt. It went around Millbrook the old-fashioned way. A teacher mentioned it at the next PTA meeting, a parent posted a photo of the makeshift career day table with Marcus's name still taped to the empty chair, captioned, "The chair didn't stay empty long." It got shared a few hundred times in a town of 11,000 people, which, for Millbrook, counted as viral. But none of that mattered much to Marcus. What mattered was smaller than that, and it happened every morning after, when Ivy stopped hesitating in doorways, when she started telling people what her dad did with her chin up instead of down. Some men build empires. Marcus Webb built stairwells, retaining walls, and, on one ordinary Tuesday in October, the kind of pride that doesn't rust.